They told me not to keep a journal after what happened. Said writing about it gives it shape. But the forest already remembers, even if we try to forget. So I'm recording this instead. Maybe if I speak it, the air will hold it differently. The tape's probably humming by now, that faint. That's not interference. That's how it starts. You ever been somewhere nature feels wrong? Not dangerous, not haunted, just misaligned. Like every tree grew half a degree off center. Like the world took a deep breath and forgot to exhale. That's what the South Ridge of Kettering State Park feels like. Officially, I was a Vermont park ranger for 13 years. Unofficially, I was a keeper of the tape, the one that marks off what the reports call Erosion Instability Zone B. Locals have another name. They call it the Acreage. I've still got the old memo. Faded type, government letterhead. All ranger personnel are to avoid Zone B perimeter. Do not engage civilians found within. Area under geological survey until further notice. That was 1994. No follow-up, no closure. Just silence. That's when the knocking started. I first heard it from inside the information kiosk by the lake. 3 gentle knocks, like someone tapping from inside the plexiglass map case. It was mid-October, wind coming down off the water. I remember the sound of the reeds, dry, snapping softly, like brittle whispers. I told myself it was just a branch. But the map behind the glass was damp, sweating, like it had been breathing. And there was something new on it. A hand-drawn oval labeled in pencil, childlike letters. Home. That night, I dreamt of footsteps circling my cabin, slow, crunching, deliberate. When I checked in the morning, there were no prints, just 12 indentations in the frost. Always 12, never 13. That number comes back, you'll see. I used to think for just paperwork, a way to stop tourists from getting lost or kids from taking selfies on cliffs. But the tape line around the acreage wasn't for us. It was for them. To keep them in. The first time I stepped inside the tape, I felt it. The air pressed down, heavy, syrup thick. Sound didn't travel right. The wind would start on your left and finish behind you. You'd hear your own breathing 2 seconds late. Not real, real, not real. Listing person cases started small. A hiker, a grad student, a birder. Always near the water. Always found with their maps wet. Sometimes the ink moved. We'd get reports of phantom lights in the woods, rangers on the other side of the lake seeing flashlights looping back on themselves. Same pattern, same rhythm. But no, footprints leading in or out, like the forest was replaying the same night over and over. Then there was the footage. Evan, my trainee, he wasn't supposed to record inside the zone, but he did. Hamilton corrupted halfway through, repeating a single frame of me walking ahead. Except it wasn't me. The second frame, same angle, same posture, but my face was turned toward him, mouth open. No sound, just a shape forming the word count. Count your steps. I've learned every ranger rule is written in blood, you just don't see whose. Rule 1. Never acknowledge the other ranger if he salutes. Rule 2. Count your steps. If you count them twice, you've crossed. Sentenced Rule 3. Don't move stones you didn't set. The forest keeps score. Sometimes I can hear the others, the ones who broke the rules. Their radio calls loop back on static frequencies. Unit 3, perimeter stable. Unit 3, perimeter stable. But Unit 3's been dead since '94. I saw his badge nailed to a birch tree once, polished clean, like it didn't want to rust. Then faint, drip, drip. The worst part isn't what you see. It's how the forest learns you. Smith mimics your rhythm, your timing, your voice. Me and Tris walk long enough out there, and something starts walking with you, perfectly synced. If you stop, it keeps going, one step ahead. And when you move again, you're following it. Not real. Real. Not real. I've got one more rule now, one they never wrote down. If you ever see your own reflection moving slightly late, don't wave back. It's not lag. It's interest. I told myself I'd never go back there, but after Evan vanished and the lake maps began to shift on their own, I had to. Because the acreage doesn't stop growing. Every lie adds land. You think that's nonsense? Look at a map from 1980, then one from today. The lake's edges aren't eroding, they're expanding. The park is bigger than it used to be. No one ever questioned it because it grows so slowly the contour lines blur. And under the paper, something's drawing back. I've seen it try to write my name once, stopped halfway, as if the forest hadn't decided whether I still existed. You're probably thinking this story, some ranger scaring hikers. That's what I told myself too, until I found the ring in the birch trunk, my own divorce ring, sealed inside the bark, still glinting. I'd lost it years earlier, miles away from here. That's when I stopped saying, not real. Because the forest doesn't care if you believe in it. It believes in you. Forest remembers your footprints, counts your steps, knows your breath. This recording, it's not for you to believe me. It's for whoever finds this tape in a ranger station that shouldn't exist. A station built on land that keeps lying about itself. If you're still hearing my voice, you're already too close. Count your steps. Don't look back on an odd number. And if someone inside the forest calls your name, answer only once. Only once. Stylin. Undermined back to the park in late September, when the air starts to taste like metal and pine. The clouds were low, bruised, and the lake was holding its breath again. I parked farther than I had to, just to feel the distance. Gravel whispered under my boots, steady, ritual. The South Ridge trailhead hadn't changed. The same kiosk, same warped plexiglass map, same warning. Area closed for erosion instability. But someone had wiped the glass clean. My reflection looked clear, too clear. My hat brim didn't quite match the angle of my head. The tape line was still there, yellow, new, tied in a perfect ranger knot. Only it bowed inward, like the air on the other side was heavier. I touched the knot, my own knot. But I hadn't tied it. Not real, Real, not real. I took the compass from my pocket, the analog one. The needle drifted sideways, paused, then swung back like it was deciding which world to believe. That's the first sign. Hesitation. The forest tests your certainty before it takes your shape. I opened the logbook. The last entry was mine from years ago. Perimeter stable, no civilian entry. Beneath it, in the same handwriting, my handwriting, a new line. Count your steps. If you count them twice, you've crossed. Emissions, I closed it fast. You don't read too long when the ink starts remembering you. The first 100 yards felt wrong. The air thickened, syrup heavy, and sound didn't travel straight. I could hear my own footsteps 2 seconds late. When I stopped, they kept going. The trick is not to panic. The trick is to breathe with the delay until it forgets you're listening. The half-bridge waited where it always does. 12 steps across, 11 back. That's the rule. I stepped onto the first plank. It sighed under me, damp but strong. By the fourth, I felt another rhythm, half a beat behind, like someone walking in rehearsal. 8 steps, 9, 10. On 11, I stopped. The 12th plank already had a footprint. Mine, but darker, older. I whispered, "You're early," and kept moving. Past the bridge, the trail curls into birch and hemlock. The light there isn't sunlight, it's the forest's own echo. That's where I saw the cairn. Small, neat, 3 stones high. The top one was wet, though the ground was bone dry. Beneath it lay a torn page from a hiker's permit, edges gnawed clean. The name box was smudged, not erased, just blurred, like it was still deciding who it belonged to. The wind picked up, carrying that low electric hum the acreage makes when it's paying attention. My pulse started syncing with it. 12 beats, then silence. Always 12, never 13. I tried to keep my eyes on the path, but movement flickered between the trees. Uniform green, a ranger hat. A man standing still as bark, half shadow, half memory. The same figure from the night at the tape years ago. Rain dripping off a brim that shouldn't have been wet. "Trail inspection," I called. My voice came back flat. "Perimeter only." Pillows, he tilted his head, just enough to catch light under the brim. I couldn't see eyes, only the glint of a badge that looked older than rust. "Do you have ye asked?" The words came like playback, perfect tone, wrong timing. "I do," I said, forcing calm. "You know I can't hand it over." He nodded once, or maybe the air between us shifted. Then his gaze dropped to my boots. His lips moved, counting silently. I felt the echo in my knees. I took a slow step back, keeping him in my peripheral. "Stay on your side of the tape," I said, but the yellow line behind me was gone. Only trees. "You've already crossed," he said. It wasn't anger or threat. It sounded like record-keeping. Championship. The trees around us leaned slightly, all at once, like breath being drawn in. My compass twitched in my pocket. 12 degrees off north. I didn't need to check. I knew the number. Miss real. Real. Not real. I blinked and the ranger was gone. Just birch trunks pale as paper, curling skin like old film. I started back the way I came, faster now. The forest made more sound than I did. Branches ticking, reeds brushing, echoes doubling back. When I reached the half-bridge again, my own prints faced me. 12, darkened by something wet. I counted them. 1, 2, 3. The 11th print was split in 2. The 12th didn't exist. I crossed without breathing. When my boots hit dirt again, I said it aloud. You always have to say it aloud. I'm leaving now. Sigma. Then, faintly behind me, 3 knocks. I didn't turn. Turning is acknowledgement. Emissions. I walked to the trailhead without looking up, repeating it like a charm. Count your steps. Count your steps. When I reached the kiosk, the plexiglass map was damp again. A single droplet crawled across the surface, tracing a new contour line in pencil gray moisture. An oval with one word scrawled beside it. Home. I left my log blank except for one sentence. Miss, if you meet yourself, follow the drier one. I locked the station and walked to my truck. The radio cracked to life on its own, no call sign, no signal, just the faint clatter of a typewriter, one key tapping, one bell dinging over and over. It was spelling something, letter by letter. G, G submerged, G, trembling. The same tightened. The lake keeps adding to its name. I drove away without checking the mirror. The forest doesn't need to see your face to follow you. It just needs your rhythm. And I'd already given it mine. I did not about it. The station felt hollow, the kind of quiet where even your heartbeat sounds borrowed. I told myself I was writing the incident report, but the logbook stayed closed. Every time I reached for it, the wood of the desk seemed to thrum, like the grain remembered my pulse from earlier. I poured coffee, black and burnt, then stared at the tape reel recorder on the shelf. It wasn't plugged in, but the red light blinked once. Then again. I unplugged the lamp to be sure. Still blinking. Negligence. The forest leaned against the windows. Not visibly, you just feel it, like a weight behind glass. The wind carried voices, but not words. The cadence of questions without sound. I told myself I'd sleep, but duty's a kind of superstition. At 2 a.m. I took the truck and drove down to the South Spur again. The headlights caught the tape line, or what was left of it. One end fluttered loose, knotted into a perfect figure 8. Evan, my trainee, should have been on seasonal leave, but his truck was parked there, empty. Windows down, keys still in the ignition. On the passenger seat, his field cam, still recording. Mitigated was short, jittery. It showed his boot stepping along the path, his breath steady. Then the camera jerked sideways, landing on a patch of soil where 2 sets of prints overlapped. His own, and another pair, bare, smaller, pressed deeper. The video looped. When I paused it, the counter froze at 001300 exactly. I called his name into the dark, echoed once, then again, slightly behind like the forest was trying to remember how to speak. Evan. The answer came as a knock. 3 soft taps from the direction of the kiosk. I walked toward it, boots crunching wet gravel. The glass was fogged, a film of moisture spreading from the inside. Someone had traced numbers on it with a fingertip. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. I wiped the glass, but the numbers reappeared as fast as my hand cleared them. Behind the fog, something faintly moved, like a reflection shifting before I did. Not real. Real. Not real. Evan, I said again. Slim pulsed once and the numbers vanished. In their place, a single word scratched backward into the condensation. Count. I should have left then. Instead, I opened the maintenance door behind the kiosk. Inside smelled of damp paper and cedar. The backup maps were stacked on a shelf, every single one showing the same change. The lake's name spelled with an extra G. Lake Kettering. Every copy. Same pen stroke. Same handwriting. Mine. I fingers faster. Heard dripping somewhere deeper inside. A leak, I thought. I followed the sound. It led to the concrete floor drain near the supply sink. The drain cover was ajar, and from it came the reflection of water that wasn't there. A perfect mirror inside the pipe. When I leaned closer, my face looked back half a second late. The reflection smiled before I did. Again, staggered backward, hit the shelf. Maps slid off like falling feathers. Each one landed face down, edges damp. The dripping stopped. Then, faint laughter. A nervous little exhale. Not mine. Trembling, hat outside, breath fogging, and froze mid-step. The headlights of my truck were still on. Through the glare, I saw Evan standing beside the yellow tape, half in, half out. His clothes were soaked to the knees, dripping lake water that smoked against the cold. "Evan," I shouted, "don't move!" He raised his hand like he was about to wave, but the motion glitched, starting, stopping, repeating the same half-wave twice. "You're inside the zone," I yelled. "Come out slowly!" He smiled, or the shape did, and pointed to the ground between us. There, just visible in the headlights, was a set of prints leading toward me. 12, no 13th. Zheng, I looked up again. He was gone. Only the wet prints remained. By edge of the waterline, the lake was flat, mirror still, yet somewhere in the dark center, a ripple formed, steady, pulsing like a heartbeat. On the surface floated a park map, laminated, torn from its corner. It drifted toward shore as if pushed from below. I crouched and pulled it out. The paper was warm. The ink shimmered, still moving, contour lines crawling like worms. When it settled, I saw it. The forbidden zone had changed shape, now a perfect circle labeled home. Behind me, from somewhere deep among the birches, came the crunch of gravel. One step, then another, then a third. I turned slowly. The sound stopped. The flashlight flickered once, twice. Between the pulses, the world rearranged itself. The trees closer, the tape line farther, the air thicker. "Count your steps," said a voice that might have been Evan's. Or mine. At your steps. I took way back step. Then another. 12. The 13th refused to come. The ground beneath me gave a small sigh, like the bridge had done earlier, and from the lake a ring of ripples spread outward. Though nothing had fallen in, I whispered, "I'm leaving now." The forest whispered back, "Already gone." Faint static hum. I turned and walked toward the truck without running, repeating the phrase under my breath until language became rhythm. Not real. Real. Not real. When I reached the cab, the radio hissed alive. The same typewriter sound tapped once, then twice, then spelled 3 letters across the static. G, G, G. Then the engine died. The headlights dimmed. The forest exhaled. And somewhere behind the trees, 12 footsteps started walking, perfectly in sync with mine. Thanks, in a voice. Morning smelled like iron and sap. I hadn't slept. Every time I closed my eyes, I heard that dripping from nowhere, steady as a metronome, counting time, the way the acreage counts steps. I packed before sunrise. Compass, notebook, analog recorder. No gun. Bullets don't mean anything to something that edits maps. I told the ranger dispatcher I was checking erosion markers. It sounded responsible enough. She laughed and said, "Try not to lose yourself out there." Her voice clipped mid-sentence, the line fuzzing to silence. The trail greeted me with a fog that seemed deliberate. Trees half visible like faces behind frosted glass. The air was warmer than the ground, breath rising in slow ribbons. Each time I inhaled, I tasted the lake. I started recording. Time, 700 hours. Perimeter, south entry. Visibility, 30 yards. The mic hissed like something breathing against my ear. After 2 minutes, the compass began to twitch, north dragging 10 degrees east, then snapping back. The same hesitation as yesterday. The forest's pulse. At marker 12, I found something new. A survey flag driven into soil I didn't remember flagging. The tag read GS-94. That code hadn't been used since the old federal study, the one that ended when a ranger went missing. The initials on the back of the tag were EA, Evan Avery. I knelt and brushed dirt from the base. The stake cast no shadow. The light just bent around it like a photograph refusing to expose that corner. "Evan, if you can hear this," I said into the recorder, "I found your mark. Come get it." The playback clicked. Then his voice, recorded, not live, answered a second later. "I'm here." Silence followed. I checked the tape. No splices, no loops. Just my voice, then his. I kept walking. The fog thinned into a pale glow where the birches stand like ribs. The ground under them was drier than it should have been. Birch bark peels in curls when the tree sheds lies. That's what the locals say. Every curl looked like a page half torn from a book. At the center of the grove sat a bench, standard park issue, but the metal plaque read, "Rest Area B." We only ever built one rest area, A. Shimmer my fingers over the letters. Fresh engraving. Beneath the bench, folded tight, was a map wrapped in plastic. I unfolded it carefully. The lines were reversed. White paths on black forest. The forbidden zone was a blank void labeled Count. Not real. Real. Not real. Missions died. The wind died. I heard my head wait. I heard my heart at double speed. One beat mine, one beat borrowed. I took a step backward, and the bench creaked as if someone else had just sat down. Missions. Gravel crunching behind me. 12 beats. I turned slow. No one. But the ground bore fresh prints, bare feet, leading in a circle around the bench. Inside the circle, the soil was smooth as if licked clean by light. I spoke into the recorder. "Unidentified activity near marker 13. Evidence of rotation. Ground pattern circular." My voice shook. The recorder replied with the same words, pitched lower, delayed by 1 second. The loop continued even after I shut it off. I ran diagnostics in my head the way rangers do when panic wants a map. Check gear, check exit, check pulse. Everything normal except the world. Then a noise like fabric tearing underwater, low, thick, rolled through the grove. The birch trunks bent slightly toward each other, a closing gesture. I walked faster, tracing my steps by the smell of cedar. When I reached the clearing, the fog had condensed into threads that hung shoulder-high, glistening like spider silk, but humming. Each strand vibrated to the rhythm of breath, mine or the forest's. I pushed through, counting out loud. 1, 2, 3. The 10th strand brushed my sleeve. The hum entered my chest cavity, a tuning fork in bone. I stumbled free at 12. The 13th never came. At Thread Fork I found another flag, same code, GS94, but this one was pinned through a torn piece of cloth. Ranger Green. Evans, sleeve patch. I AMG'd it and kept moving, following the path until the lake opened below like a mirror with depth. The surface was perfectly still. Then the ripples began, widening from the center. Something large exhaled beneath. The recorder clicked on by itself. My voice from earlier whispered through static. "Come get it." From across the water the echo replied in Evans' tone. "Already have it." With width. I stepped back. The ground flexed slightly as if floating on a slow wave. My compass needle spun once, stopped dead. North was everywhere. I ended the tape. Returning to base, area unstable. But the recorder didn't stop. It clicked and typed one mechanical keystroke at a time, printing letters into silence. G, G, G. The same as before. The same as always. I looked up. Across the lake, half hidden in fog, a ranger stood at the opposite shore, hat brim dripping light instead of water. He raised his hand, 2 fingers to the brim. Not a salute. Almost. I said nothing. I didn't breathe until he lowered his hand and pointed straight at me. The air between us folded, rippled, and the reflection of trees on the water lined up perfectly with the real ones. The overlap shimmered once, like a photograph correcting exposure. Then he vanished. The water still. The fog opened. On the opposite shore, the tape line fluttered inward, as if pulled by invisible hands. I left the map on the bench where I'd found it. The forest doesn't like borrowed lies. Walking out, I counted each step aloud, voice rough. 1, 2, 3, 12. The 13th stayed silent. When I reached the truck, the recorder light was off, but the reel kept turning, whispering. Under the noise. I lifted it to my ear. It was playing breathing. Mine and someone else's. Perfectly synced. Not real. Real. Not real. Static hum low, then fading. I didn't go home. The truck felt smaller than it is well, like the air inside belonged to someone else. I sat with the engine running and listened to the forest breathe through the windshield. Each exhale fogged the glass in slow, even rhythms. When I wiped it away, my handprint stayed, but another appeared beside it, palm forward, smaller, wetter. I drove until I lost signal and stopped at the overlook by the ranger cabins. The lake was a dull coin under moonlight. I switched off the headlights. Everything stayed visible. The dark out here glows if you let your eyes adjust. People say it's phosphorus from the water. It's not. At 3 a.m., the first distortion came. The radio snapped on by itself, whispering the morning weather report from last week. The announcer's voice looped the same words, clear skies, moderate wind, but the tone twisted, each replay slower than the last. Then static swallowed it whole. I turned the key to kill the power. The radio kept playing. The sound wasn't from the speakers anymore. It was coming from under the seat, low and wet, like breath pressed through mud. I grabbed the recorder, switched it on. "Time 3:10, I said, voice shaking. "Possible interference event. No visual anomaly yet." My hand trembled so hard the mic caught the pulse in my thumb. Outside, the world moved strangely slow. The trees swayed, but the leaves lagged behind as if the wind were buffering. I stepped out, the gravel stiff under my boots. The forest felt awake. Not in the alive way, more like something remembering to move again after being still too long. I called Evan's name once. The echo answered twice. One real, one perfect. "Evan! Evan! Evan!" Something in that second voice made my ribs tighten. It wasn't imitation, it was rehearsal. The forest practicing. I took the trail again, flashlight beam cutting short, light particles thick in the mist. The path forked near the cairn from before, only now the stones weren't stones. They were bark, peeled and curled, stacked wet, still dripping sap that smelled like iron. In the center sat Evan's body cam, lens pointed up, light blinking faintly. I pressed play. The footage showed him crouched at the lake's edge, whispering to himself. The wind in the mic drowned half of it, but one phrase came clear. "They count backwards." The picture jumped. Evan's hand reached toward the water. Then another hand, identical, reached up from the reflection to meet it. The feed cut out. I pocketed the camera, heart pounding, counting steps back toward the truck. 12. Always. 12. The air on either side had different temperatures. My breath condensed only inside the zone, as if the forest needed proof I existed before letting me leave. "Leaving perimeter," I said, voice cracking. "Perimeter complete." The tape fluttered once, like a nod. Halfway to the station, my headlights caught movement again. A figure walking the road ahead. Uniform, hat, same as before. But this time, the hat brim glowed faintly, wet with light, not rain. I honked, shouted, "Identify yourself!" The figure turned and froze mid-step. That's when I realized. He wasn't standing on the road. His boots hovered an inch above it. He raised 2 fingers to his brim. I kept my hands tight on the wheel. He didn't salute, but the gesture hung there, unfinished, expectant. Then the headlights blinked out. Darkness like a curtain. I felt pressure in my ears like the mountain had inhaled. I turned the ignition. Nothing. The world filled with one long exhale that vibrated through the steering column. Then a whisper from the passenger side. "Don't look back on an odd number." I froze. My reflection in the side mirror moved a second late, mouth open, counting. Not real. Real. Not real. The lights flickered on. The road was empty. The forest quiet again. I drove the rest of the way in silence. When I reached the station, the front door was unlocked, though I remembered bolting it. Inside, the desk lamp burned low. My logbook lay open to a new page. Rule 7. 2 names and a forfeit. It was written in my handwriting, but my pen was still capped. I flipped back through the older entries, edges warped from damp air. A few lines had changed since yesterday. Missions. Rule 3, don't move stones you didn't set, had become, Don't move what's pretending to be stones. And my final line from last night. If you meet yourself, follow the drier one. Now read. If you meet yourself, only one of you leaves. Sickness, the radio popped alive again. Unit 3, perimeter stable, said a voice too calm to be real. I answered out of instinct. Copy that, perimeter secure. Then quieter. Copy that. Missions, my own words came back seconds later, but not from the radio. From the hall. Someone or something repeating them just out of sight. I stood, flashlight trembling in hand, and stepped toward the doorway. The sound of boots echoed, my rhythm perfect. When I stopped, it stopped. At the far end of the hall, the window pane fogged from the inside. A handprint bloomed in the mist. 5 fingers, long and thin, and then another beside it. They pressed, released, pressed again, like knocking through glass. I backed up until I hit the desk. The recorder was still running. I whispered into it. If this reaches anyone, don't count. Don't count anything. Then the typewriter in the corner woke, keys striking slow, deliberate letters. G, STM, G, STM. The bell chimed once, then stopped. Texting. The window cleared. The handprints were gone, but water dripped down the inside pane, tracing the same oval I'd seen on the map. The same word forming beneath it. Home. I shut the recorder off, but it kept turning. It always does. The tape needs to finish what the forest starts. I sat back down, breathing shallow, listening to the hum fade. Outside, something walked the perimeter, 12 steps at a time, never 13. I counted without meaning to, until the rhythm found me. Stiffness and real. Real. Not real. Having solid. I returned to the acreage at dawn, not out of bravery, out of gravity. Once the place learns your weight, it keeps pulling. My boots crunched frost-stiff leaves as mist drifted between the birches. The tape line still bowed inward, yellow plastic trembling like it was breathing. I told myself I'd stay only long enough to collect Evan's gear. I crossed under the tape. The world changed temperature. Warm air pressed against my skin like shallow water. The sound of my own breathing doubled, one breath late. Every path felt rearranged, trees where open ground had been. The half-bridge ahead looked longer, boards stretching into fog. 12 planks, I reminded myself. 12, not 13. The first plank groaned. Each footfall answered itself with a faint echo, not behind me, but beneath. On the 7th plank, my shadow split, one cast by the rising sun, another by nothing. The second shadow bent its head when I did, but its breath showed through the boards. Not real, I whispered. Real, not real. At the far end of the bridge, a wet footprint waited for me, bare, human, facing outward. Water beaded on the surface, refusing to sink in. I stepped past it without looking down. The path dipped toward the lake. The tween trees light flickered like the reflection of fire, though the air smelled only of stone and cold sap. Then came the voices, faint, layered, each layered, each whispering a different version of my own report. Perimeter stable. No civilian entry. No civilian entry. Try to the clearing by the shore opened like a wound. In the center stood the bench from before, rest area B, but this time something sat there. A ranger uniform, perfectly folded. On top lay my badge, the badge I was wearing. I reached to touch it and the air pushed back, a soft resistance like pressing on glass. My fingers stopped an inch short. Beneath the badge the fabric pulsed, breathing. Behind me branches shifted. I turned. The other ranger stood between the birches, water dripping from his hat brim, face half shadow. He spoke my name, syllables stretched thin. You moved the stone. The words hit like a memory, not a sound. Images surfaced, the survey line, the summer I cheated a boundary marker to save time, the paperwork I never filed. I fixed it, I said. He tilted his head, same as before, like listening to a weak radio signal. Land remembers shape. You changed the shape. He stepped forward, boots silent on soaked ground. The fog pulled tight around us. The echo of water lapped unseen against shore, 13 seconds apart. You don't belong outside now, he said. I reached for the badge again. This time my hand passed through it, through air that felt thicker than water. The folded uniform dissolved into ripples that spread across the clearing. From the lake came footsteps, slow, deliberate, rising from water to shore. Each step left no print, only a shimmer where earth refused to accept weight. Evan? My voice cracked. A figure emerged, same height, same posture. His face pale and smooth, as if the forest hadn't finished drawing him. Water streamed from his eyes like ink. You left me here, he said in two voices, his and mine. Pensions. I didn't, I whispered. You. Mischief, he raised a hand to silence me. When he moved, droplets hung in the air too long, like the world lagged to follow. The other ranger watched us both. 2 names, he said. 1 forfeit. I didn't understand. Evans stepped closer, expression empty, voice now perfectly mine. Give yours. The forest tightened. Every tree leaned inward by the width of a heartbeat. The hum deepened, resonating through bone. My mouth went dry. You can't take what's already written, I said, clutching the logbook at my chest. The older ranger smiled, a slow bend of lips that didn't reach eyes. It already has. I opened the logbook. The pages fluttered on their own, stopping near the back. My name, written over and over, each line paler than the last until it vanished. Blank space where identity used to live. The hum broke into whispers. Count your steps. Follow the drier one. Leave the forfeit. I backed away toward the bridge. The lake water followed, rising in veins along roots, seeping into soil. The earth exhaled warmth against my ankles. I didn't look down. Halfway to the tape line, I realized I could no longer hear my footsteps. Only the ones behind me. Matching. Perfect. Not real. Real. Not real. I ran. Branches lashed my sleeves. The air thickened, syrup-heavy. I burst through the tape, gasping as it snapped around me like elastic. Outside, everything stilled. The sun sat where it had been an hour ago. The watch on my wrist ticked but didn't move. At the truck, I glanced back once, just once. The tape hung straight, but a figure stood just beyond it, hat brim tilted up. My own face stared back, dripping, patient. He raised 2 fingers to the brim. This time, I saluted. The forest exhaled. The hum ceased. For a moment, I believed I'd ended it. Then, from inside the cab, the radio spoke in my voice. Perimeter secure, awaiting relief. I shut the door and drove without destination, counting my breaths instead of steps. 12, 12, 12. Never 13. But when I passed the boundary marker miles down the road, it had moved 3 feet closer to the lake. The lie expanding. The acreage growing again. I resurged to make it far. The road blurred into one gray pulse of fog and trees. The forest followed, patient as breath. Each mile the hum grew softer, closer to the sound a throat makes before speaking. I pulled over at the ranger shed near mile marker 9 and killed the engine. The silence there was thick enough to lean on. Inside the shed everything looked normal until you looked twice. The calendar still read 1994. The air smelled like damp paper and pine cleaner. My mug sat on the shelf, same chip on the rim, but the coffee inside was still steaming. I whispered, "I shouldn't be here." The room replied a heartbeat later. Same words, slower. "I shouldn't be here." The selfish lay open on the table. The page turned itself, edges twitching like eyelids. The ink bled outward into new sentences. Confession required. Lie must be corrected. I knew what it wanted. The stone. The boundary marker I'd moved all those years ago to make a survey line match the budget. A small lie, a practical one. But lies grow in soil like anything else. I stepped outside. Dawn had gone gray again. The lake shimmered behind the trees, water as still as waiting glass. I could see the birch with the peeled patch, the one that had taken my ring. That's where it wanted me. When I reached it, the tree's skin pulsed faintly, resin leaking around the scar like sweat. The silver band shone half buried in bark. I touched it. Warm. "You came back," said the other ranger's voice from behind me. "I never left." He circled into view, face clearer now, water streaming from hair that never dried. "2 names," he said. "1 forfeit." I understood at last. "My name," I said. "And Evan's." He nodded once. "And what will you give?" The ring, the lie. I pressed it deeper into the wood. The bark folded around it, soft and wet. The ground shook lightly, as if something exhaled beneath the roots. From the lake, the ripples reversed, flowing inward toward the center. Evan appeared on the path, pale and smiling, the edges of him wavering like heat. "You fixed it," he said. His voice doubled again, his and mine overlaid. "No," I said. "I traded it." The air turned metallic. The trees straightened one by one. My heart matched the rhythm of the hum until I couldn't tell which was which. The other ranger stepped forward and saluted. "Shape restored," he said. "Keeper chosen." I didn't return the salute. My body did it for me. Muscles remembering a duty older than thought. Light poured through the canopy, thin and green. The world folded once, neatly, like a map closing. When it opened, Evan was gone. The lake calm again. Only the whisper of water remained. 13 seconds apart. 13 seconds apart. 1. Siblings. 1. Siblings. Laughed. The lakes colded. 13 seconds apart. 1. Siblings. Laughed. 13 seconds apart. Lived. Shape restored. Pause. T13s. Laughed. Shape restored. Laughed. T13 seconds apart. 1. Shape restored. 1. Remembering the world in this world. Laughed. Shape restored. Laughed. T13 seconds. Laughed. Shape restored. Laughed. T13 seconds. Laughed. Shape restored. Laughed. T13 seconds. Laughed. Shape restored. Laughed. T13s. Laughed. Shape restored. Laughed. T13 seconds. 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 Laughed. Shape restored. Laughed. T13s. Laughed. Shape restored. Laughed. T13 seconds. 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 Laughed. Came downstairs. The lake couldn't wrapped within. Vin slap. Pause. Water slap. I looked down at my hands. The gloves were new, the uniform darker. My badge bore a different date, 1994. The shed radio crackled from miles away. Unit 3, perimeter stable. I keyed the mic that wasn't there and answered, "Copy, stable." My own voice echoed back from the trees, hollow and precise. For a moment I felt nothing, no fear, no guilt, just the weightless calm of belonging to the place that had claimed me. The hum settled into the soil like sleep. Then, from behind the birches, the faintest sound. Knocking. 3 taps. A plea or a greeting, I couldn't tell which. I turned toward it, against the rule, and saw the tape line glittering between trunks, fresh and bright. On the far side stood another ranger squinting at the fog, his uniform dry, his eyes familiar. He lifted a hand, hesitant to wave. I realized I was seeing the edge from the wrong side. The forest breathed in, the tape quivered. I opened my mouth to warn him, "Don't cross, don't count," but my voice came out late, one heartbeat after his. He whispered, "Is someone out there?" "Yes," I said, but the word left as mist against the glass of air dividing us. He stepped closer, studying the footprints that weren't there yet. I felt the ground shift under mine, aligning with his. Our shadows overlapped, then traded places. Not real. Real. Not real. Then soft typewriter sound. Inside the shed, the logbook turned its final page. Fresh ink spelled a single line. Ranger assigned to Zone B until relief arrives. The bell dinged once. I looked back through the trees. The man on the other side of the tape was me, younger, dry, counting steps. I watched him take 12. The 13th disappeared into fog. The world tilted, caught itself and held. The lake gleamed smooth as memory, and in the quiet that followed, the forest spoke in the only language it ever used: repetition. Turbulence secure, perimeter secure, perimeter secure. A stative log, the similar je choose to his students. We have knownest, we have no choose of well. Listening to we've justed. What? Dust drifts down like a slow-moving tide. The light over the lake is metallic, trembling between gold and gray. I sit beside the South Ridge kiosk, logbook open on my knees, listening to the tape line breathe. In, out. In, out. Each pulse of air matches the beat under my ribs. I write the date, then stop. The pen stalls halfway through the number, tip dry, ink refusing to leave the page. The forest does not want me to finish the day. I whisper the rules to fill the silence. Rule 1. If you meet yourself, follow the drier one. Rule 2. Count your steps. If you count them twice, you've crossed. Immigration 3. Don't move what's pretending to be stones. Rule 7. 2 names and a forfeit. Saying them out loud keeps the forest polite. Down the road a car door thuds, voices, a family. They've come for sunset pictures. Their laughter arrives first, too bright for this place. The little girl skips ahead, sings numbers under her breath. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. She doesn't notice, she never reaches 4. I stand, wave them back. Trails closed at nightfall, I call. Erosion risk. The lie tastes smooth from use. The father shades his eyes. Is that the old ranger station? It was, I say. Now it's storage. Limbs, the girl points at the fluttering tape. Why's it moving? Her mother laughs. Wind, honey. But there is no wind. Only the forest's slow breathing. The tape bows once toward the lake, then straightens, then bows again, as if something large is inhaling beneath the water. They thank me, polite, unaware. When they leave, the girl glances back and mouths my words exactly with the same rhythm. Count your steps. Then they're gone. Dark slides in. The lake mirrors the sky until there's no telling which is surface and which is reflection. Somewhere in that mirrored distance I see movement. 2 shapes walking the same trail on opposite shores, one dry, one dripping. I turn on the recorder. Orientation notes, I say. My voice sounds thinner each night. For seasonal hires, if you hear your name spoken twice, I say softly, answer once. The second call isn't a person, it's an echo practicing ownership. The hum agrees, a flashlight beam appears between the trees. Another ranger, new uniform, crisp hat. He stops at the boundary, raises a hand, not a salute, almost. Evening, he says. Perimeter secure, I answer, automatic. He squints at the tape. Feels colder on the inside. It's supposed to. He writes something on his clipboard. The forest tilts closer to listen. Sentencing. Mind if I check the posts? He asks. Not after dark. He laughs lightly because rules sound funny until they're true. Copy that. He lingers a moment longer, the beam catching the edges of my badge. Then he nods and walks back toward the truck. When? The headlights vanish. The forest exhales again. I reopen the logbook. New writing stains the last page, wet ink forming without my hand. Relief pending. Keeper required. Behind me, the lake stirs. Ripples form concentric circles that never reach shore. Between them, the moon's reflection shivers, splitting into two. One moves with the water, the other hesitates, lagging half a breath behind. Not real. Real. Not real, I whisper, and the echo finishes the pattern for me. The tape snaps once, sharp, impatient. From the trees, footsteps emerge, 12 exactly. Each one lands with my weight. He steps out, the other ranger, soaked and gleaming, hat brim dripping light instead of rain. His voice arrives delayed like radio lag. You kept the shape, for now. He studies the logbook in my hands. It will grow again, I know. He nods, then glances toward the water. They're counting you tonight. I can feel it, I say. My heart keeps pace with the unseen rhythm. 13 beats. The 13th always belongs to the acreage. He lowers his hand, gesture half salute, half farewell. Hold the lime. Then he fades, as if the mist inhaled him. The air closes with a sigh. I turn the recorder back on. If anyone finds this tape, I begin, voice slow, deliberate. You'll think it's a story. It isn't. The acreage is just a place where lies about distance come true. You say a trail is a mile. It becomes a mile, and a mile again. I moved a stone, I confess. A small lie. The forest made room for it. Now it needs someone to watch the space that didn't exist before. That's my job. Silence listens. The typewriter in the station clacks once, unseen. The bell dings, polite, final. I close the logbook and step to the tape. On the other side, the reflection of my uniform waits, shimmering faintly. I raise a hand. The reflection doesn't mimic me. It waves first. Who are you? I ask. You, it says, and the glass between us ripples. Or what's left after you counted wrong. I should leave. I don't. I lean forward until my forehead touches the invisible surface. Cold seeps through skin into thought. The reflection's breath fogs against mine. On the glass, it writes one word backward with a fingertip. Home. Marginalized the rule, only answer once. But the forest whispers it back twice. The first knock echoes in front of me. The second lands behind my shoulder. I smile, small, tired. Still rehearsing, I say. I walk the perimeter one final time. 12 steps, turn. 12 steps, turn. On the last loop, I stop by the forfeit tree, the birch that swallowed my ring. The scar has healed smooth, but a faint metallic glint breathes beneath the bark. I place my hand over it. Hold it for, I whisper, until the next line needs space. The bark warms, softens slightly, as if agreeing. The forest grows quiet, the way a chest goes still before exhaling. Across the water, New headlights flicker. Another ranger, another shift. The hum in the air resets itself, tuning the night. I press record one last time. Final entry, I say. Orientation complete. Boundaries remain stable. For now. Semantics curls around the words, soft and patient. If you're hearing this, I continue, voice nearly gone. It already knows you. That's how the forest remembers. Through curiosity. Through ears. The tape whirs slower. I can hear the background turning into weather. Rain that isn't rain. Wind that isn't wind. My heartbeat fading into something rhythmic. Shared. I'll keep counting, I whisper. You keep listening. The lake slaps once. Then silence folds around everything, thick and absolute. For a long moment, nothing moves. Then, a single knock comes from the kiosk glass. And if you're hearing this, it already knows you. The wind sighs through the reeds, whispering the numbers that have no end. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. You don't believe me, do you? Dissolves into silence. I whisper,